This week on Jersey Matters, the Delta variant of COVID-19 is in New Jersey. We get the latest from one of the top doctors at Rutgers University. The Red Cross is sounding the alarm about a critical blood shortage in New Jersey caused by the pandemic. A warning about 4th of July fireworks from the New Jersey State Fire Marshal. And a swiveling beach chair? Yep, it was invented in New Jersey. Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. We're expecting huge crowds at the Jersey Shore and for fireworks in New Jersey this weekend. And with the Delta variant now here, could we get another spike in cases? Let's get the latest right now from Dr. Reynold Panettiere, Vice Chancellor at Rutgers University's Institute of Translational Medicine and Science. Doctor, as always, thank you so much for joining us. We come to you for your expertise, especially when something new happens. And now we have the Delta variant. Tell us what that is and how concerned we should be.
Well, the Delta variant is really originated in India, and it has a transmission effect that it is more infective than the wild type or the Gamma. The Gamma is the Brazilian variant. So what we have found is that the Delta variant is now the more predominant COVID-19 infection compared to the wild type. Now, the good news, Larry, the good news here is the vaccines are still effective. And what we're still seeing, despite the Delta variant being more prevalent, is that actually we're seeing less infections resulting in emergency room visits, hospitalizations, ICU, and death. So this is really good news. So what does it mean to the individual? Well, not much. There's still potential that people who get vaccinated won't be completely protected. So if you develop symptoms reminiscent of COVID-19, it's important to get tested.
They're saying that younger people are getting the Delta variant. Is that because they're more susceptible or just because the older population is getting vaccinated?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. We don't know. We can't tease that out completely, Larry, but I do believe that the older Americans were offered the vaccine sooner, and we didn't test the safety of the vaccine in children. So as a consequence, the pool of potential infected individuals are now children. And so the Delta virus will seek a host that is vulnerable, and the vulnerability will be in the children. Now, the good news is the children, though they do develop the infection, the vast majority actually recover, unlike adults.
We keep hearing about children getting vaccinated, that we can't reach herd immunity unless we start to vaccinate children. Now there's talk of testing and children being vaccinated as young as 2 years old. Is that a good idea?
Well, again, the virus will seek hosts. It doesn't discriminate. Gender, age, it will seek a host. And if the adults can't be infected, then the children are going to be more vulnerable. I think the vaccine is safe, although more studies have to be done to demonstrate that. We have seen an uptick of myocarditis, that is an inflammation of the heart, in some adolescents who have been vaccinated. But if you look at the incidence of that, it's very, very low. It's also that other viruses can cause myocarditis too. So my sense is much like we do with measles, mumps vaccines, pertussis vaccines, we need to cover people who are vulnerable. And that means vaccinating children. So I think we need studies to demonstrate safety. As soon as we demonstrate safety, we need to vaccinate.
You just compared it to many vaccines that are mandated to go to school. Should this be mandatory to go to school?
I think for us to be most effective, we will need to have children vaccinated so that they can be social, can get socialized in their schooling. I think it's very, very important. Do we compel people to do it? Now that's a philosophical and ethical issue that is beyond my bandwidth.
Doctor, let me interrupt you for a second, because we do compel people to take certain vaccines. We do compel people to get the measles vaccine, except for religious exceptions, to go to school. So it wouldn't be that unusual for us to say you need to get the COVID-19 vaccine.
No, there's precedent, Larry. There's absolute precedent. And that precedent has almost eliminated some of these viral infections. So I'm a proponent for it. I think the sooner everyone's vaccinated, the sooner we get back to the new normal, which means kids are in school.
What is herd immunity? Have we ever figured that out?
Well, herd immunity is when the susceptibility to infection because of immunity drops to less than 20%. That means 80% of people must be immune to become what we call, in quotes, herd immunity. Herd immunity, simply stated, is the virus will die if it does not find hosts. And if 8 out of 10 of the hosts can't be infected, the virus will die off.
I phrased the question poorly because I was looking for the number and you gave it, because there were several numbers given out, but you're saying 80% is a pretty safe number.
Yeah.
If we don't get herd immunity and we have these variants, will the virus finally mutate to a point where it is vaccine resistant?
Well, we hope not. But we do know that viruses have the capability of mutating. So, we don't have an answer for that. We know, for example, the flu had the flu virus, the flu vaccine has to be changed yearly. We're hoping that isn't going to be the case for SARS-CoV-2. That is the causative agent of COVID-19. But we can't be positive. So I think what we need to do is watchful wait, vaccinate. And when we find that it's effective, then maybe it is a one and done injection and we won't need it again. If, on the other hand, vaccinated individuals are becoming infected, then we need to clone that virus, understand it, and then recognize we may need to revise the vaccine on a more regular basis.
I'm going to try not to be political at all in this question, because these days everything is political. There's two theories out there. One, that this virus was manipulated through gain-of-function research in a Wuhan lab. And there's another theory that it just occurred naturally. And there's two distinct sides that argue vehemently with each other. Rather than ask you what your theory is, how important is it to find out how this started?
Well, I think it has implications as to how do we prevent this from occurring again. If indeed this was a test tube virus, then the rules of engagement would be we're responsible and we could take steps to prevent this from ever happening again. On the other hand, if this was a wild type virus that grew out of just mutations, then given that, we would expect this virus to mutate yet again and potentially cause another pandemic. So I do believe there is some import in understanding the origins, but ultimately we are dealt the cards and we have to deal with it. The way we dealt with it was social distancing, good physical hygiene, and most importantly, the vaccine. Remember, Larry, if we go back a year plus, just a year and some months, we had nothing.
Right.
And we're back to the point where we're not wearing masks and we're social gathering. I mean, that is quite a statement, and it was all about the science and the vaccine. So however this occurred, I'm confident that the world has, in our science, the ability to curb yet another insult, be it man-made or be it, nature.
That is very well said, Doctor. I think that we blame each other and argue with each other so much, we don't even take the time ever to just step back and be in awe at the wonders of modern science. Well said. As always, thank you so much for your time. Dr. Reynold Panettiere, Rutgers University. Still to come on Jersey Matters, the Red Cross in New Jersey is warning about a critical blood shortage. What you can do to help, next. Welcome back. Recently, the American Red Cross in New Jersey issued a dire warning that there's a critical shortage of blood for New Jersey hospitals. Here's my interview with Rosie Taravella, CEO of the American Red Cross in New Jersey, about what that shortage means to us. Thank you so much for doing this. We keep hearing about a blood shortage in New Jersey. How bad is it?
It is really a tough situation right now. There are a number of people that are out and about that kind of laid low during the pandemic. And as a result, we've seen some emergency situations, and trauma centers need to have blood on the shelves to take care of folks who, frankly, are getting in car accidents. There's been some overdoses and violence, and just a strong need for blood on the emergency side. And then on top of that, there are people who prolonged or canceled or postponed elective surgeries and much needed organ transplants. And so we're trying to get those on the schedule at hospitals, and it's just taking a while because of this surge.
I think when people read the headlines and they see critical blood shortage, which is the way it's being described, they want to know what level that is. You know, when does it get that low where you say it is critical? What are you supposed to have and what do you have now?
Well, the Red Cross has contracts with hospitals, and we typically need to collect about 600 units a day here in New Jersey. And that will guarantee that there's a good 5 days worth of every type of blood on the shelf for hospitals to use. I'm sure you've heard type O negative and type O positive are always desperately needed, especially O negative, because it can be given to anyone at any time. And in an emergency situation, it's the easiest thing for the doctor to grab off the shelf.
So that's what you're looking for. I mean, you want anybody to give blood, right? Anybody that can give blood, you want to give blood, but you looking especially for O positive and negative?
Yes, we always ask when a person who has O negative blood donates. We of course keep track and sometimes make special appeals just to them. But at this time, it's crucial that everybody donate. We also need platelets. Platelets are used for patients who are fighting cancer, for example, and that hasn't stopped. The pandemic did slow down the need for some of this emergency blood, but now again, with people out and about and combined with people who have prolonged the care that they need and people who are still fighting diseases, in some cases their diseases have progressed because they haven't been able to get in. So it's truly an important time to give blood.
Is it only the pandemic, or are there other contributing factors to the shortage?
Well, summer is always a difficult time for us. We rely very heavily on schools. Kids 16 and up can donate blood, and there are many Red Cross clubs at schools and schools that just decide it's important to give back, so they will host blood drives. Over the summer, of course, that declines because kids are out of school, but we just spent an entire year with several schools closed, and so kids have gotten out of the habit. They don't necessarily learn as early as we like how important it is to give blood. And so, we're looking into not just the summer, but into the coming months, can we rely on these young people? Most of our donors are over the age of 65, and we are so grateful. They have time on their hands and they're willing to give. But we need people of all ages to consider giving at this time.
Yeah, I didn't even think of all of that. Not only the schools, the colleges and the high schools, but also I remember I work in an office building and you could give blood down in the lobby, and nobody's going to office buildings anymore. Everybody's working from home. So if it continues this way, what does that mean?
Well, what it means is that we thankfully, folks like you are helping us tell the story. We're just looking for people to understand that blood cannot be manufactured, that the only way it can be available is if people choose to donate. The whole process will only take maybe an hour. Again, you mentioned corporations, and it used to be so easy for folks to just go down to the lobby during lunch hour and donate. These days, it does take a little bit of extra time to go to redcrossblood.org, put in your zip code, look and see if there's a blood drive near you. And then thanks to the opportunity to tell the story, we have seen an uptick in appointments. So it might take a few days to get an appointment, but we desperately need people to consider giving over the next days and weeks.
Yeah, I think we've all seen, because of the tragedy down in the Miami-Dade, that the Red Cross always comes to the rescue, and the Red Cross is always there. And one of the things that is a necessity is to have enough blood, God forbid, if there's a crisis. So you're having a difficult time now in the normal course of things. As a matter of fact, there's probably less people traveling, and there's probably less accidents. Once we get back to normal, if there's not a blood supply, that could be a crisis.
Yeah, that's really what we're looking at, Larry. And I appreciate that you've identified that the American Red Cross is there when people need us the most. And it's really the people that help us be there that make all the difference. And so, I'm grateful for your viewers to just for considering giving blood at this time, because the American people rely on donors, not just to our blood center, but all places that collect blood. They're struggling too, and it's just a crucial time to help.
And I would think there's a place to give blood all over the state, so it's never going to be more than a 20-minute ride to get somewhere to give blood. And tell me again exactly how people can find the location nearest them.
People can go to redcrossblood.org, and or they could download our blood donor app. I always encourage people to consider using the app, because you can track your blood journey. It'll let you know which hospital received it, and you can keep track of the last time you donated. People should wait 56 days between red blood cell donations. You can donate platelets once a week. That's a bit more time consuming, but it again is very rewarding, because that's another product that is universal and anyone can receive it. But yeah, if you go to either one of those locations, or even call 1-800-RED-CROSS, you can find a blood drive near you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. And I hope a lot of people respond so that we can get out of this critical condition. Rosie Taravella, CEO of the American Red Cross in New Jersey. Still to come on Jersey Matters.
Putting a stop to New Jersey's eviction moratorium for some, depending on your income. We'll have all the details coming up next on Jersey Matters.
Welcome back to Jersey Matters. Thousands of people in New Jersey who were behind on their rent because of the pandemic were this close to being thrown out on the streets. But then Governor Phil Murphy came to the rescue and signed an extension to the eviction moratorium. Our Kimberly Kravitz says this is a national problem that's hitting New Jersey hard. Kimberly.
New Jersey's eviction moratorium is ending earlier than expected after the state Senate and Assembly approved a new comprehensive housing bill that would commit $500 million in federal money to rental assistance. But for some, the damage is already done.
Right now, couch surfing. So basically, friends and family until I can find a place.
Darlene Demers didn't have an address for us to meet her for this interview. She is just one example of someone that fell on hard times during the pandemic.
In New Jersey, there's really nothing affordable, because affordable isn't affordable. Before COVID, I had my job that I was with for years. And when COVID hit, had to downsize the company. He let us go. A handful of us were let go.
Abby Kofsky of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation tells us that the housing crisis is actually more of a health crisis.
Because we saw that when families were evicted from their home, it would increase their risk of transmission for their family and their community. Only 1 in 4 have been able to receive that emergency rental assistance. There's a real challenge, and we see that there are about 11 million households that are behind on their rent, right? So nobody's alone in this. This is a real big, nationwide challenge.
There's two pieces to the moratorium. One is the eviction that was extended through July 31st to give tenants enough time to apply for assistance. The moratorium preventing foreclosures on homes during the pandemic was set to expire on June 30th, but the Federal Housing Finance Agency extended that through the end of the year.
This allows the sellers a little bit more time to get their financing together and make decisions.
Gina Sapner of Redfin wants to set the record that this won't mean an overabundance of properties coming back on the market all at one time.
Once the eviction is lifted, people are under the impression that there's going to be a mad rush of properties coming on the market. However, normally in New Jersey, evictions take 3 to 4 months to schedule. We're already 15 months behind. So there's not going to be a floodgate opening of properties. It's going to be systematic.
Advocates for landlords and tenants, such as Matt Shapiro of the New Jersey Tenants Organization, agree that the housing bill is one of the most comprehensive in the nation and gives some light at the end of the tunnel for both renters and homeowners.
Homelessness in a pandemic, which is what eviction causes, is pretty close to a death sentence in many cases.
Shapiro, an advocate for tenants, believes that the system is too harsh on the working residents like Darlene, who just had tough luck during the COVID-19 lockdown.
These tenants are victims. They didn't do anything. This entire concept of evicting them and now doubling the amount that they owe possibly it's totally unfair. That all they did was lose their jobs because the government did a shutdown, measures they had to.
If I was, I guess, down on my luck or had a kid or had no food, there are places like shelters, but I'd rather stay on a couch. I feel safe.
Lawmakers, landlords, and tenants have been haggling for months over a way to end this eviction moratorium. The proposed measure sits on Governor Murphy's desk. Reporting for Jersey Matters, I'm Kimberly Kravitz.
All right, thank you, Kimberly. Still to come on Jersey Matters.
I'm Phil Andrews, and coming up on Jersey Matters, we'll talk about how churches here in the Garden State are still dealing with the after effects of COVID-19 1 year after the height of the pandemic.
New Jersey's largest medical marijuana company just got bigger, tripling the amount of cannabis it grows and opening a brand new dispensary. Curaleaf opened its Edgewater Park location on Friday. The 7,000 square foot dispensary is twice the size of the original Belmar store. They plan to open a third dispensary in Bordentown. Welcome back. As New Jersey emerges now from the pandemic, there are still some stubborn, lingering problems for the state's churches. Jersey Matters' Phil Andrews explains. Phil.
Well, Larry, during the early days of COVID-19, there were many here in the Garden State who thought their religious freedoms were being violated with Governor Murphy's executive orders on distancing and just how many people were allowed into a building to worship. But how much have things changed since those days?
Now we start this story by revisiting the lawsuit that was filed by the Reverend Kevin Robinson of St. Anthony of Padua Church in Caldwell and the Rabbi Yisrael Knopfler of Lakewood. Both cited the fact that the governor's prohibition of religious services during the coronavirus outbreak violated the U.S. Constitution.
First, it's no church attendance at all. Then you can have 10 people. Then you can have 25% with a capacity of 150. Then for a while it was 35%, then 50%.
Today, I'm pleased to announce that our houses of worship and religious services can now operate at 50% capacity with no cap effective immediately.
At 50%, how many people would you have been allowed to let in at that number?
Maybe 50 people. We can comfortably only hold 100 in the main church. But since the restrictions are over, people come, it's full upstairs, it's full downstairs, and we have 80 to 90% increase in attendance.
And then finally he said, okay, you can have your churches back. There was no science behind any of this. It was all arbitrary restrictions dictated by one man who now refuses to acknowledge that he was wrong from the beginning.
And therein lies the rub. You see, despite the fact that the governor has lifted the limits on church attendance, Attorney Farrar wants to make sure that Murphy or any future governor does not have that power moving forward.
He has never acknowledged what he must acknowledge if this case is not to be not to proceed further. He must acknowledge that this will never happen again, that he will never treat churches differently from factories and all the other places that were allowed 100% occupancy, and he refuses to make that stipulation.
But not all houses of worship in the Garden State were up in arms about the attendance limits put in place by the governor. Sharon Baptist Church here in New Brunswick simply switched gears and went virtual, an idea accepted with open arms by its congregation.
I think the biggest lesson I've learned for us is that we are bigger than a building. Bigger than a building. There was so much that went on here, and it came to a screeching halt, but we rallied together and kept the church open even when it was closed. That's the biggest, that Sharon Baptist Church is bigger than this building.
As a matter of fact, even with restrictions lifted, Pastor Conaway's congregation has opted to continue virtual services.
We did a needs assessment, and the needs assessment yielded that over 60% of the congregation said they would feel comfortable coming back in the fall with 50% capacity.
And part of Sharon Baptist's commitment to the community also includes a weekly food pantry and COVID-19 vaccinations.
Of course, there are those who say that many have made this a political issue. And if there's one thing I've always learned is you never mix religion and politics. As the late Mahatma Gandhi once said, those who don't think that politics and religion are connected don't know much about either one. In New Brunswick, for Jersey Matters, I'm Phil Andrews.
Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. There's going to be huge celebrations in New Jersey this weekend. We're coming out of a pandemic, and there's going to be a lot of 4th of July fireworks this weekend. And that is cause for concern for Richard McCutsky, the New Jersey State Fire Marshal. Thanks for doing this, sir. This weekend is going to be a big weekend for people who are coming out of the pandemic. They want to let steam off. It's the first time they're going to see fireworks in a long time. Fireworks in most of the area completely legal. Does that all add up to concern for you?
Yeah, fireworks, we want to keep the public safe. And if you remember back in June 28th of 2017, that the Christie administration made certain fireworks, handheld sparklers, ground sparklers, legal here in New Jersey. Novelty fireworks, really. Nothing aerial is legal here in New Jersey for the consumer to purchase. But even those small fireworks, we want to be able to keep the residents safe.
Yeah, and the reason I said for most of the area, because a little bit bigger fireworks are legal in states near us. And it seems like, at least when I go to the beach on the 4th of July, there are some aerial fireworks that go off.
Yes,
how strictly do you enforce those laws?
Well, it really becomes a police issue, enforcing what is purchased and what is set off. We follow the fire code, and we have issues in there that deal with these new legal fireworks, the ground sprinklers. Listen, fireworks can be dangerous at any level. You think about your typical sparkler, handheld sparkler, that reaches a temperature of 1200 degrees at the tip. You can bake a cake at 350 degrees. Wood burns at 575 degrees. So when you're looking at the tip of a handheld sparkler that reaches 1200 degrees, you can do some serious damage and receive a serious injury. So our concerns are, one, making the public aware of the dangers of even purchasing these legal fireworks. And two, making sure that they're using them properly and safe.
Are you more concerned about fireworks, or are you concerned about people going out into wooded areas, forest areas, and having cookouts and cooking and possibly drinking, and then leaving some of those embers behind?
Well, as you've seen just this past spring, the large wildfires that we had here in New Jersey in the Lakewood, Ocean County area, something small can just take off if the conditions are right. The ground is dry, it's windy. So, either way, fireworks or someone out in the woods, with a campfire or cooking, either way, the potential for a large fire is there. So, we're concerned across the board.
So I think everybody wants to be safe. People do stupid things, but I think everybody wants to be safe. What advice would you give?
So there are a number of things that you can do really that are just common sense. One, don't let children play with fireworks. Don't let them light fireworks. Actually, the law that was passed and signed back in 2017 restricts the sale of the now legal fireworks to anyone under the age of 16. So, keep them away from kids. Adults, don't drink alcohol and play with fireworks for obvious reasons. Follow your local and state laws, of course, which is what we're professing here. When you buy your fireworks, only buy from a reputable dealer. Never purchase a package that's been opened or tampered with. Only use fireworks on a hard, dry surface that's an open area. Stay away from combustibles. Stay away from the woods. You don't want to be firing fireworks there, playing with them there. Always light fireworks with either an extended lighting device or a punk or something like that. So, you're not right on top of the firework. Again, don't stand on top of the firework either, or as close to it as you can to light it. Just keep a distance away. If the firework doesn't light, don't try and relight it. Don't try and tamper with it to try and get it to light again. If it's a dud, let it be. Let it sit for at least 5-10 minutes, and then put it in a bucket of water so you're sure it doesn't go off. Listen, there are plenty of ways that we can have a safe and healthy holiday. You don't have to, if you want to see fireworks, go to a professional show that a local municipality is sponsoring instead of trying to do it yourself.
You sound like you're giving that advice out of experience. Have we had some bad happenings or horrible happenings in the past?
Well, fortunately for 2021, we have received 201 reports of burns. Not one has been firework related. 2020 was a different story. For 2020, we received approximately 325 reports of burns throughout the state. Of those, 21 were firework related. 19 of those 21 just happened between the period of Memorial Day and 4th of July weekend. So last year was an active year as far as burns and incidents regarding fireworks. This year, knock on wood, but like I said, we haven't had one reported to us. So we hope that trend continues.
Well, I hope you and the men and women that work with you have a uneventful 4th of July and a happy 4th of July so you and your families can enjoy them too. Thanks so much for spending time with us. Division of Fire Safety Director and New Jersey State Fire Marshal Richard McCutsky. Still to come on Jersey Matters, a beach chair that spins around, and it was invented right here in New Jersey. That's next. Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. It's standard at the Jersey Shore to get up every hour and adjust your chair to face the sun. But now you don't have to do that anymore because there's a new beach chair that spins around, and it was invented right here in New Jersey. Here is Joe Block, inventor of the Orbit beach chair. Hi, Joe. Thanks a lot for doing this. How did you come up with the idea for this chair?
So yeah, I was on the beach about 6 years ago with my family, and I noticed people lifting their chair, turning towards the sun, and they would keep doing it every hour, every half hour. So I was like, we have to come out with a chair that swivels for the beach. Bar stool swivel, kitchen chair swivel, et cetera, et cetera. I said to my sister and mom, you want to do this? And they're like, yeah, we're on board. Let's go ahead and do it.
Well, it's one of those ideas where when you hear it, you go, oh, of course. Why didn't anybody think of that before? Why didn't I think of that? It's an idea where you think to yourself, how come this hasn't happened yet? Which by the way, is a compliment. They are the best ideas.
After we had started doing the project, I kind of figured out why nobody went into this, because it was so intricate. There was so much involved. You would say, oh, it's just a swivel beach chair, but we had to get the center of gravity so it wouldn't tip when you're reclining. We originally had our prototypes welded, which was aluminum, and it was too time consuming and costly to do that. So we had to end up riveting it. So I had to change parts around. It took a long time to get the patent, like 4 years to get the utility patent.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And so from the time when you came up with the idea, how long did it take you to go to market?
Oh, it was definitely about 5.5, 6 years till we actually had them for sale to the public. Yeah, 6 years.
And how are you doing with it now?
Oh, we're doing phenomenal. We've sold half of our first batch. We ordered another 1,000 of them. I was briefly on the news. Brian Donahue did a segment in New Jersey, Positively New Jersey, and it was so much fun, and it aired, and people have been coming up to me saying, I saw you on TV and I love the product. And it's really turning out to be a wonderful situation. Yeah.
Are you in the chair now?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Go ahead. Let's see you swivel.
Sure. Even reclined.
That's perfect. How much do these cost?
$149 a chair.
Because that's a lot more than people would normally pay for a beach chair.
The great thing about this chair is we did add bumpers to it. So when you're not on the beach, you can go to your kid's soccer game or camping or whatever. So it's more than just a beach chair. It's like 5 chairs in one. It's great for everything. It's a little bit higher than a normal beach chair. But how I got the patent was when the legs spread, fabric spreads out so it can't sink in the sand. And then, like I said, adding the bumpers allows people to have many other uses for the chair. So it's more than just a beach chair.
I get that, but here's what worries people about beach chairs. They break.
Yes.
When you leave the beach, you see people who have just trashed their chairs and left them there. Is this more durable?
To be honest with you, it is. We used all the best quality vinyl. We used anodized aluminum for rusting. We actually giving our customers a 1-year warranty on the chair, which most people only give 30 days or 90 days. So we're giving a good warranty with this chair also.
Where do people get it? Are they in stores?
We're not in stores yet. Eventually, we'd like to get into big box stores. Right now, we're just selling online, www.orbitbeachchair.com, @orbitbeachchair on Instagram, eBay. So we've got it on websites. We're trying to build up. We've done some small advertising, but the news is really the way to get it out there. People watch. I'm sure people love your show as well as I do. So.
Oh, well, thank you for that. But
you're
I
welcome.
can see you on Shark Tank, Joe.
That'd be great one day. If I was able to do that, I probably would, but that's a long shot,
Have you tried?
Hopefully. No, we haven't tried yet. We're trying to build the business up a little bit first.
Okay.
So,
all right. So you're on the ground floor now. You made a big investment. You're just starting to sell this now, but you're pleased with how it's going so far.
Absolutely. Couldn't be more pleased with how it's going.
Thanks a lot for spending time with us today. Joe Block, inventor of the Orbit Beach Chair. Still to come on Jersey Matters. Ever wonder how blueberries get from the field to your table? Well, wonder no more. We're going to show you next.
We've absolutely been put through the ringer over the past week or so with extreme heat, temperatures well into the hundreds for the New York metro area, even getting to around 100 for Philadelphia. We've backed off. It's been cool. It's been kind of unsettled for the weekend, but we jump right back into the thick of things by early to mid next week as the summer muggies return. Of course, one of the things that we are going to start looking at are the active tropics with several waves coming off the west coast of Africa. We have Elsa out there. No direct impact to our area. But I think southern Florida, by early in the week, we could be looking at some issues there. Hot weather is going to try to creep back into the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, extending all the way to the Pacific Northwest with the cooler stuff down along the Gulf Coast. We had some scattered showers over the weekend. I think generally speaking going forward, we are going to be dry outside of some spotty shower thunderstorm chances. There's nothing significant coming our way. So your 7-day outlook is going to show you much warmer temperatures coming our way on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then kind of just around average going forward. I'm Nor'easter Nick for Jersey Matters.
We grow and pack blueberries. Our farm spans over 700 acres. So on a day-to-day basis, we start pretty early, around 4:30 a.m. We get all the workers in the camps and we get them on buses and get them out into the fields. The blueberries are dumped onto the packing lines. So first you have the blower cleaner, which removes all the leaves and the stems. The color sorters will take out the green berries. And the soft sorters will take out the softer berries. And following that, they go through a final visual inspection where any defects that got through the line didn't get sorted out, they'll be taken out. We pack per customer requirements. So once they are packed, we actually hold them here in our coolers, get them down to temperature, which is 36 degrees. And from there, they're loaded onto the appropriate trucks and they're shipped out all across the United States. It's a misconception that blueberries are just a summer job. Blueberries are really a year-round thing. Post-harvest in the fall is when we start to kind of manicure the fields, trim the bushes, get them ready for next year's production. Farmers pour their hearts and their soul into farming. And it really takes a lot of patience and a lot of dedication to deliver a product that's worthy to the customer.
Thank you, Nick. Again, that piece was shot and produced by Nor'easter Nick Pittman. My commentary is next. The artwork in the rotunda of the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. is just stunning. Together, the sculptures and the paintings tell the stories of the discovery of America and of a nation born of the people, by the people, for the people. In the rotunda, you can find our founding documents, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Together, those three documents are called our Charters of Freedom. The experiment of American democracy continues to be a brilliant success. It has spread around the globe. It continues to do so, bringing freedom to millions. And yet there are some who walk into this glorious rotunda and see racism, because they see racism everywhere. And if you don't believe that there are some who see racism everywhere, the rotunda was labeled as an example of structural racism by the National Archives Task Force on Racism, whose stated purpose was to find racism everywhere in government buildings in Washington, D.C. So yeah, they were commissioned to find racism everywhere. And if you think for a minute they were going to take the money to put together a report to find racism, that they were going to go, nope, couldn't find any, well, that just didn't happen. They found racism everywhere. But the most disturbing finding of the task force report was the Capitol Rotunda, which many Americans consider sacred, but in fact, according to the task force, lauds wealthy white men. The report suggests that a trigger warning be put at the entrance to the rotunda. To quote, now according to the report, forewarn audiences of content that could cause intense physiological and psychological symptoms. Seriously? If artwork about American history triggers intense physiological and psychological problems, maybe the outside world isn't for you. And when did we start even talking about trigger warnings? When did we get so hypersensitive as a society that we need signs to tell us that something we're about to see or hear might offend us? What if I'm offended by trigger warnings? I am certainly not arguing here that our founding fathers are perfect. No man is. Certainly no figure in history is. Everybody has flaws if you're willing to take the time and try hard enough to find them. And we have an entire pathetic subclass of social media trolls who thrive on finding the flaws of others so they can start a campaign to ruin the reputations of both the living and the dead. And yes, slavery is America's greatest sin. And the fact that it took a bloody civil war to end it and then decades more to offer equality to all is shameful. But that's why we have history, to learn from it. You can marvel at its greatness, but also learn from its mistakes so we don't make them again. Remember, many of our founding fathers abhorred slavery. John Adams called it an evil of colossal magnitude. Ben Franklin called it an atrocious debasement of human nature. And yes, some of the founding fathers owned slaves, especially the ones from the South. But they also wrote a constitution and created a republic that carved a pathway for equality and freedom for all. Not just in our country, but beyond. It took too long. But America now is finally living up to its pledge of liberty and justice for all. And we can't ignore that the founding fathers who are now being condemned made that possible. It is inherently unfair to judge historical figures by the social mores of today. Modern civilization is a testament to how much we have grown. A study of history reminds us of our spectacular evolution. A great shrine to that is the Capitol Rotunda, with documents and images of who and what paved our path to enlightenment. All made possible by this grand experiment called America. And the only thing that should trigger is celebration. I'm Larry Menti. Enjoy your 4th of July weekend.